It is 4 o'clock on September 8th, 2022. We are going to call the Public Works September meeting to order. Proof of notification. Yes. Properly notified, everybody was. Number 3, agenda approval. 16-point agenda. Everybody have that in front of them? So Mr. Cosgrove moves. Seconded by Mr. Cooey. Any discussion on agenda? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. 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 Anybody opposed? All right, we have an agenda. Number 4, previous minutes of the previous meeting. Everybody have a chance to look at those? I would entertain a motion to approve as presented in our folders. Mr. McGee, seconded by myself. All those in favor signify by aye. 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 Previous minutes have been approved. Moving on, public comment. Do we have public comment? Nobody present. Number 6, Courthouse Administration Report. Mr. Clint, I believe.
Yep, I apologize. Let me open up my folder here. 1 second. Almost there, sir. And I think Josh has got it up on the screen as well. Come on, open up. It's a PDF file. There we go. All right. So yes, again, looking for a motion potentially to file the property management report. Property management report is a reoccurring report composed with intentions of keeping the members of the Public Works Standing Committee informed on projects and information impacting the courthouse facility and properties that are underneath the committee's care. Items to review today. First item being the water fountain status. Oral report from Maintenance Supervisor Randy Nelson. I'm hoping Randy is there. I didn't see him on the screen.
Yeah, I'm here. 2 water fountains are in, complete. Everything's done with that. The third one on 3rd floor or courtroom floor, I'll do it another date. No rush on that one.
For our DOJ grant application or second round status with a timeline, again, working with Shannon Ludwig on proposed projects that are underway. Water fountains are on there. Also investigating yet touchless sinks in the bathroom. Another item that we're looking to put on there is consideration for door openers and then flipping the one door on the courthouse access. And I would defer again to Randy to further talk us through on that project's going.
Okay, on the ADA systems that I got a bid today or yesterday from Perkins. 2 ADA automatic openers for both the 3rd floor courtroom floor and the door 13, the main entrance coming in from the parking lot. Comes out to a little over $12,000, $12,054. For 2 ADA openers with push buttons and a new push bar on the main entrance coming in the door downstairs. I had a contractor here today. He's going to give me a price on replacing the door, the steel commercial door, fire door on the courtroom floor, because it opens the wrong way. With the openers, it needs to be a right hand or left hand outswing door, a right hand outswing. He's going to give me a price on what's going to cost to replace that. We're estimating a little over $3,000 to $4,000 for have him come in and replace that door. So we're looking close to 16,000 with the door openers and to replace that door so it's facing the elevator and the stairway shaft, so people with wheelchairs can access the courtroom a lot better. Egress and access.
Courthouse roof repair. Russ Mones was on site today. He did stop by and talked with him very briefly. He is pleased with progress on it, and I would defer again to Randy to be able to kind of help the committee understand on the different projects that have been tackled and the couple events we had of unknown challenges that were also uncovered. If you would, please, Randy.
Okay, with the flat roof, they have completed about 95% of it. They're on the Monday, Tuesday, they should be, roughly Tuesday, they should be finished. With the flat roof up there, they only had one little incident up there, or a couple incidents with some drains, but other than that, those were fixed all in the same day, not a problem. We had Ash Creek come out I had most of it prepped and ready for them. They just put in put the fittings together. And so they're done with that. All drains are in, and then again, they'll finish up on Tuesday, and then the tinners will come in the end of next week and put all the trim around the outside on the top. So end of next week, we should be done with that project up there.
Randy, do you want to explain to them how them drains work on that flat roof, please?
What they did was they tore off all the insulation on the roof decking, the steel roof decking. They added a little close to 8 to almost 9 inches of insulation, and then they lay the rubber down on top, and then everything is tapered. All the foam was tapered from the outside wall to the drains. Even though the decking is already tapered, they tapered it some more with the new foam they put in, and the drains had to be raised like almost 5 inches. That's why we run into a drain problem. When they got here the first day, they started tearing everything apart, and they said, "Where's your plumbers at?" And so we had to hurry up and scatter to get things tore apart so they could get the first drain in. And we ended up getting it done, no problem at all. Ash Creek came out, and after I had it all prepped and ready for them, they just glued it all together and set it in, and it was done. So
Total number of drains up there, 2, 4.
2, 4, 6
Six.
drains total.
I was up there this morning.
But we only had to raise 2 drains. The other 4 are staying the same,
Yep.
same depth.
Excellent. We'll move on to the window replacement. And with this one, I would defer if Cheryl is there to kind of talk about where we're at on that process. Is Cheryl there?
Looks like she's online.
I am. Yeah, sorry.
Yep. I thought I s- if you would, please.
We had 2 companies come look at windows. We need 69, well, 70 with the big one in the Register of Deeds, but 69 on the old side, and it's only on the south side of the building have the moisture in them. We had 2 companies come look. Badger, bid came in at $30,100. That includes the dumpster, the labor, and the lift rental to get up to it, and materials, of course. Wisconsin Glass bid all the windows on that side, and I did put a call into them and tell them I could send them the drawing of what they need to replace, because we don't need and can't afford to do 141 windows. But that came in at $74,325. But when I split those out just with 59 windows, or 69 windows, Beaver Glass came in at $436.23 per window, and Wisconsin Glass came in at $527.13 per window. And
Excellent.
we're hoping to get those done. Well, we have to get those done by April of next year. So.
And after speaking with both contractors, when we went through and measured everything, both of them said neither one of them would get there till spring, because they're booked all the way through for the rest of this year.
Excellent. Thank you. And then, so moving along then to the metal siding estimates. I think we had some discussion with that. I would defer to Randy and Cheryl again on where we're at on the metal sidings.
Still nothing from the contractors. I've left a message after message after message, and nobody's responding back yet with a number.
Space needs assessment on first floor, so we are in movement. Darren is planning on, I believe, moving out tomorrow at the latest, Monday, Tuesday next week to be operational over in the ambulance garage, I think is the plan that I'm still aware of. So with that space then vacated out, we'll have about a month to kind of get it set and postured for zoning and for land conservation begin occupying down there, as well as then Sheriff's Office taking over then the training room. Signage updates. Cheryl's been working on some of the different sign projects. Cheryl, if you can let us know where we're at on that.
Yep, so when I talked to them, I told them we wanted the bids in a week. But we wouldn't need it done for at least a month. Most of them will use the existing dark plaques that are on the wall, except we wouldn't have enough, so they're going to take the plaques off the wall on third floor, move them to second and first for identification, and then we'll start a new style up here just to keep the cost down. But that would be signing first floor with EMS leaving, also putting signs above the door for what will be the new conference room, the new zoning, land conservation office, signs above the bathroom doors, those entrances because they're hard to find, and putting white vinyl on the doors on third floor, at least re-signing above these in the third floor hall, and then putting lettering on the back of the signs because people come back down, like from the treasurer's office, and can't tell what office they're looking at because the back of the signs are blank. So hopefully we should get those bids in next week.
And then our courthouse key and security project has kind of been backburnered to the best of my knowledge yet. While we finish up on these, I have had conversations with Attorney Wendell on the Ub and Hound project last week. I'm hoping to touch base with him tomorrow again to see where we're at with that. Mr. Chair.
Anybody have questions on everything that was just covered? Mr. Carroll.
You mentioned deadline for the windows of April. I'm not familiar with what that deadline is and what happens if they don't meet the deadline.
So I believe the deadline we're talking about is in context of spending off our funds. This is from Fund 75 money that we have to have spent out by March of 2023. If we don't get it spent, I'd have to check with Carol. I think it ends up kind of then impacting on our, let me check with Carol on what happens if she's told me probably twice and I can't remember off the top of my head on the ramifications if we don't get it spent by the time that we had it for our bonding.
Spent somewhere else.
Did you hear Mr. Cooey, Mr. Langrick?
No, I did not.
Hopefully, is this Mike Oregon?
I can hear you now. Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I got you now.
But that can be spent in other areas, right, Clint? It's whatever was on that list. We could move it to a different area if we couldn't get it spent in time.
We do. We have flexibility underneath the resolution language to show it as an expenditure on a different project.
I believe it was March 31, 30, whatever there is in March.
Here,
Yes, sir.
that's good, but I'm just wondering if we want to look to see how our contracting scheme will be with the window installers to give some kind of bonus penalty or something like that to give them incentive to finish in case we do have trouble transferring the funds.
Randy, they talked about, they were booked through spring-ish, February,
He just said they're booked for the rest of this year. But he says if they know ahead of time, which they bid on it, that they can have it, they'll get it done in the springtime by the time that we need it
Yeah.
done. They just had to let us know that they're booked for the rest of this year. They can't do it before December.
Yeah, I think we can, I would hope we could get it done before March 30th. Any other questions? All right, we'll go to number 7 then. Barb, you are up. MIS Administrative Report.
Okay. There it is. Okay, sorry. The MIS department's been busy. We are now, I just forwarded the contracts to Clinton today to sign for the radio tower project. Once those are signed, we will actually begin putting in the consoles. The consoles are about ready. I just need the signature on the contract. Then we also, are moving EMS out. Their move is to be completed on Monday. The phone lines will switch over. So once that's done, we've got the phone lines next to port to the new building with their fax machines. The other things that we're working on are just meetings, lots of evening meetings. We're having trouble keeping staff in office because they're here in the evenings a lot. So that affects the amount of work that we're getting done. We're gonna start to track how much time we're spent doing meetings and doing prep work, just because I think that that's gonna be a really important tool in the future when we start looking at Gabe's hours. You know, and when we look at the cut to that position, I think it's really important that we keep this in mind. Otherwise, you've got the budget that we talked about. We'll talk on reclassification coming up in the agenda, and it's just busy as ever.
Anybody with questions for Barb? If not, we'll move on to number 8, Highway Administrative Report.
Well, highway sure has been really busy, and our monthly bills reflect that. If you would get that up on the screen, Barb, because they're gonna want to see this.
Which one is it? I'm not sure where you want this. This is your packet, but I don't know what page in your packet.
So it's like that.
Okay.
So while she's pulling it up here, highway this month and just monthly bills was, we spent one
I don't
point,
have that on your packet.
Number 7.
so total for the bills for the month was $1,540,971.44. Normally, this doesn't happen all in one month, but we did anticipate these costs. It was just a matter of when they were gonna hit. Obviously, you look at the big ones again, you got payroll on there. The 2 trucks that we ordered from 2021, 2 of 3 trucks, both of them hit this month. The biggest one on there is the asphalt for County Road BR and County Road E. That was $733,356.22. Some of the construction costs for Greystone, the sand and salt shed started to show up. That's 95 grand of that spent. There's roughly 200 some thousand left to go on that project. Randy Olson trucking, 26,500. We had to utilize him because of the long distance hauling from Boscobel back to County Road BR, just due to the distance and keeping that pavement as hot as we could so we get it laid down properly. And then we had 83,000 from Scott Construction for Westford Township, Casanova, and that's to be noted because we will see reimbursement. A lot of these costs on here, normally we see the partial reimbursements to cover the monthly bills. So we upfront the cost and then we end up seeing a lot of it back, whether it be revenues or payments for doing the projects. And then the last big one, really note, is $50,817. That's for the County Road H Bridge, which I'll get to that in a little bit later on, but that one's completed, so we're starting to pay the bills on that one. Mr. Chairman.
Anybody with questions on the bills as presented? If not, I would entertain a motion to be paid. Supervisor McGee, seconded by Mr. Cosgrove. All those in favor of paying the bills as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pay the 1.5 million. Project updates.
Okay, that's the good news. 60 to 193, the resurface project, that's all 100% completed. We just had basically just kind of walkthroughs on it. We had no complaints. The County Road E, the cold in place project, that project its entirety is just about completed. All we have left to do is a little bit of landscape work and centerline paint, which is scheduled for the end of September. The County Road H Bridge is completed along with the final walkthrough, which I did yesterday. The bridge, it looks pretty good. I would invite anybody that wants to take a look at a real beefy bridge. I could stop a semi from going over. That's a good one to look at. County Road BR, same thing as County Road E. All the landscaping work is done, so the last thing we have to do out there is the center line paint, which is scheduled for end of September. Sand and salt shed, all the foundation work is done. The T-walls have been placed and the asphalt bottom in it is completed. So last thing we're waiting for is Greystone to bring their crew in to actually erect the building itself. And right now I'm looking at maybe a week and a half before we see their crew back here. But the nice part is it only takes them a week to week and a half before that building is completed. Which is leading us towards our highway open house. We're right now with everything we have going and the amount of cleanup that we have to do from this year, we're shooting for hopefully maybe the third week in October while the weather's still good, because primarily that open house is going to take place outside. And seal coating, we did complete seal coating the roughly 21 miles worth of road, which is County Road SR, County Road Q, County Road D from Bloom City to West Lima, and County Highway Double J from Highway 14 to 130. The initial seal coat is completed. We are working back now to go sweep off the loose chips, and we just need to have that scheduled for paint, which is again going to be in the end of September. So you'll actually see us out there multiple times sweeping that center line and cleaning that road off. I know there's a lot of complaints about the loose gravel, the roughness in the road. A lot of that's going to come out when we sweep and get it cleaned up. You'll see a big improvement on that. So you just got to be patient. That's just part of the process. We can't avoid that kind of stuff. And Mr. Chair.
All right, you ready to move on? Anybody have questions on project update from Josh? If not, we'll move up to number 9, discussion and possible action on the right-of-way mowing policy.
So the request came forward that the county actually have their own policy on right-of-way mowing. We currently do not have a policy as a county, but we've always resorted back to the Wisconsin state statute. So working with Attorney Wendell, we developed a policy. If you want to try to put that on the screen, Barb.
Yep, which number is it?
Tell you how to. Yep. Oh, okay,
I'd like to tell you yes, but I can't.
it's on there. I'll just wing it.
Yeah, sorry, I don't think we have that one.
Okay, I'll ask for Attorney Wendell if I need help
Oh.
explaining anything. We're just gonna kind of wing it on this one. So basically, all we did, we recommend that we had.
Page. Thank you.
So basically, all we did was we adopted over Wisconsin State Statute 66.1037, 8301, and 8603. The highway commissioner and or their designee is the authority and interpretation of the policy and may exercise discretion within the scope of this policy. This policy has been adopted by Richland County Board as draft at the recommendation of the Public Works Committee. Employees will report violations of the policy. You can scroll down a little bit more. We'll get to the meat and potatoes of it. Okay, references adopting resolution 22, purpose, hold it. Oh,
I'm trying, it doesn't like when it gets to break, it doesn't like it.
okay. The purpose of this policy is to establish a set of rules and procedures for safely maintaining the county highways. This policy is intended to serve the balance between the interest of the public safety and those of landowners who may be affected by the highway vegetation maintenance. This policy applies to all employees and departments of Richland County Highway, state employees who are employed by Richland County Highway, contract employees, vendors, volunteers, and community partners. Policy outlines the duties of the patrolman or highway employees in managing and maintaining highways and right-of-ways, which are as follows. Patrolman shall remove, cut, or trim the trees, shrubs, or other vegetation in or on the county highway or right-of-way to 33 feet from the center line of the road. Patrolman shall move down vegetation in a highway or right-of-way. Patrolman shall trim branches that are hanging less than 25 feet above an area that covers the road width. Any wood that is cut will be left in appropriate lengths along the roadway for landowners to collect. If the wood is not picked up within 30 days, patrolman may make other arrangements. So basically what you're looking at is just an adoption, like I said, over from the state policies. We don't want to overcomplicate this because at the end of the day, we have a job to do. We got to keep the right of ways open and clear and get as much brush taken out as possible, you know, to avoid people hitting deer to avoid the excess snow, the ice, whatever it may be, proper visibility. So we want to keep it as simple as possible, not to overcomplicate the process in which we have to do it. So simple is to adopt over the state statutes. Mr. Chair.
Do you want that in form of motion out of this committee, moving it upwards to the full county board?
Yes.
Questions on the policy as presented, anyone? Supervisor McKee makes the motion. Seconded by Supervisor Cooey. All those in favor of adopting and moving this policy up to full county board for their approval, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. One more for you, Josh. Number 10, ATV UTV ordinance.
So normally I would defer to Carla Dowdna for this one, 'cause she's been the main leader on it, but I will take over in her absence. So Carla understood that Richland County has many different ordinances in place for ATVs, UTVs, and they're kind of scattered all over the place. So what she did was she worked with myself, Clay Porter, and many others to develop basically one solid ordinance where you can find all ATV policies listed out. There's a couple reasons why we're doing this. One, we find it best that we was adopt over the Wisconsin state statutes to keep everything uniform. But while keeping everything uniform, we're hoping that'll help the townships adopt their own ordinance as well, because we're basically doing the legwork for them. So it allows them to adopt over the same ordinance as what we have into the township, and they have the room to make a few of their adjustments as well, because they maintain jurisdiction over their roads. So I've been briefed on this. I haven't read it in its entirety. I was there with the rest of them, is basically brainstorming. I believe Attorney Windles maybe had a chance to review this on Carla's behalf. Maybe I could defer to him if he has anything he'd like to input. Otherwise, it's basically just adopting over state statutes and making one clear policy versus trying to go back through everything and find it.
I would just add, we did previously revise our ATV UTV ordinance, but as Commissioner Elder just stated, I believe that there were some deficiencies in it, and my understanding is that this ordinance does integrate a lot of the state statute that our old ordinances kind of relied on anyway. But I have reviewed it. I have no objections to it, and I think it gets people out and about. It's probably a good thing.
So we would be looking for a motion to take this to next step, which I believe is county board level.
Motion. Second. Motion made by Cooley, seconded by Cosgrove. Any further discussion on the ATV UTV? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. All right. Moving up to number 12. 11. Possible action in response to resolution 22-96. Mr. Langrick.
If I could, I think I'll take over this one. This was a meeting between Barb Scott and myself and Clint representing the courthouse maintenance. Basically, looking at 2024, we're looking at having to reduce tax levy by $278,000 to the Public Works Committee. So I'll just read its background and read its entirety so it makes sense. All Richland County department heads have been instructed to respond to the education information document from the ad hoc committee with effective, realistic ways that we can cut costs and meet the budgetary constraints as possible directive action for 2024. While MIS department is not a mandatory department and highway is, the services that are provided by both are required for operation of mandatory services. Any business today requires IT support and service to function. The suggestions that are made here are carefully considered. It is with the utmost hesitation that we recommend cutting $40,000 from MIS and $238,000 from highway for a combined savings of $278,000. MIS uses $40,000 for equipment that furnishes computers for departments within Richland County. Highway uses $238,000 for the purchase of asphalt. As this is compounded through 2027, the only way that computers will be replaced is through grants and other funding sources. Highways funding potential loss could be replaced through alternatives such as short-term borrowing. Slowing replacement of computers and roads will have negative impact on the county, up to and including loss of productivity and impact to users of county services. Mr. Chair.
Discussion from the committee.
first thing I would say, it's gonna hurt everybody. I mean, it is, unfortunately, that's what it is. I think what this does is, you know, need to show everybody what it's gonna mean. And eventually it's gonna mean a different county than we currently have. I don't know what that means, you know what I'm saying? I mean, how drastic does it go? Does it go back to gravel roads and things like that? Now, could it? Yeah, it probably could. Now, is that probably the right way to go? I would suggest not, but I mean, we're at a point here where the revenue doesn't match the spending, and that's what we gotta fix. I realize it's a struggle, and I realize everybody has, because it's every department, guys. This department's no different. And I'm probably speaking from my finance chair more than I am from this one right now, but we all have to do our part, and until we can find a better way to increase revenue to cover this stuff, I think this is probably the right way to break it down. You know what I mean? Highway's got more opportunity than ever.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Carroll.
The other thing that is important here is that as the ad hoc committee determines if we're going to do a referendum, and then if we generate referendum information, these are the kinds of things we need to show. This is what would happen if referendum does not pass and we have to balance budget. These things will have to be cut. And so that's the kind of information each department's going to need to give us so that we can explain what would happen.
Our next step is to approve this as presented. Is that what we're looking for?
At this point, I would defer to Clinton, Administrator Langrick, to see what he wants us to do with this, if he wants us to vote to approve this or not.
So your resolution that we have in place is a directive for this body to bring forward a recommendation and costs and such by October 31st. So if you want to take action to forward this on to finance and personnel, if you want to discuss and hold on it for a month, you could still take action on it in early October. But this is kind of what is asked of you from finance, from finance and personnel and directed by county board is the correct way to say it.
In my recommendation at this point, I think Barb and I have talked enough about this that we're good with these numbers. We understand everybody has to take a cut. We'll find alternatives. We'll do what we have to do to try to get on the right direction. So, Barb, I'll ask you if you're good with it. I'm good with it. We could forward it on to finance personnel, or ask to forward it on to finance personnel.
I don't think there's anything that we're gonna change, so I'm ready to send it forward.
Agreed.
I would agree with Mark's statements as well that, I mean, everybody's gonna have to do something to an extent, but, we need to keep moving it forward. And like Mr. Carroll said, that we have to show as they move forward with the ad hoc, which he's gonna bring more of that up here shortly, what we would not be able to do if the referendum goes to vote and it would fail. So I would entertain a motion from somebody on the committee to forward this on back to finance and personnel, I believe is what Mr. said. Mr. Cosgrove moves. I would second that. All those in favor of moving it on to finance and personnel signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. We will move that forward. Looks like we are to number 12. Is that you, Mr. Carroll?
That's me. Barb, I was wondering if you could pull up from last night's ad hoc committee, item 6A on the screen instead of what's in this packet.
Yep, give me 1 second, I'd be happy to.
What we did last night is we did a few tweaks, tried to improve the graphics a bit. So what we'll look at here is where we're at right now. It's still draft, but it's getting close to what we think it will be the basis for what we all use as the facts explaining how we got here and what situation is. So starts on page 5 of the packet.
Sorry, Steve.
sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I
just wanted to make
just wanted to
sure.
make sure we're good with a quorum. We have 8 on the group or 7? We must have 7 in there. I can't keep track. Mr. Langrick, are we still at a quorum with 4? Mr. Cooey had to leave.
Oh, let me check. I forget how many fine folks you have on this committee. We're at 4. 1 second here.
I think we have, I'm not even.
See, if Mark would have came down with, he could be sitting right next to me and he wouldn't have to leave to the volleyball game, but he won't listen. Where are we at here? Highway committees, standby, almost there. Almost there. Computer's pulling it up.
Okay.
Okay, we're at Public Works. Public Works, where are you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Am I counting that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you're at a majority. You would need 5. 1,
Who's our
2,
8th one?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm tracking Steve, Richard, Gary, Chad, Steve, Mark, Julie, and Dan.
Okay. We do not.
So without a majority present, which a majority vote would be 5, then we would be, we would have broke quorum.
So I could have Mr. Carroll continue for educational purposes. Mr. Wendell or Mr. Langer.
I think you'd have to, I mean, we'd have to adjourn the meeting. We're not in meeting right now. If, well, I would hesitate on doing anything that's going to lead to any type of discussion or action on it. If it's an educational piece of a presentation that he wants to give something, but I might get a little bit, I'd be kind of hesitant also with the nature of just everything being a little bit more political at this point. It might not be the wisest.
We were also looking for input, so I would
Yeah.
want to take input.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I think it's in our best interest to adjourn. Or we can say we were adjourned when Mr. Cooey left, I guess.
Technically, yes, you were adjourned when he left. I don't think there's anything wrong though with you folks. Well, I guess we're scheduled to reconvene again next month. I don't know if that fits in timeline though with what the ad hoc committee was looking for, but the reality is of what Barb and Josh are bringing forward, I think are dollar amounts that you would want to put on the referendum. So I think it's probably already taken care of.
So if you want, would you be able to meet before county board? I hate doing that because I'll be out of state, but I'll remote back in.
Can we technically even set the next date without a quorum?
Well, it's already kind of addressed. The chair can set the date for a meeting, I think, by rules and in the handbook, I believe. So if you need to set a date, you can set a date, Mr. Chair. If you want to entertain discussion on when it might work for your folks, you can do that as well. And then you can just declare when the next date is going to be without it adjourning to a date and time.
Okay, and Barb, are you thinking we need to have something before county board? Anybody think we need something before county board?
Clinton, are you able to approve the MIS administrator because it's got budgetary impacts? Or does that need to go to county board?
It's going to go through the finance and through the budget type of a process first. And then I visualize once we seal up the budget and we've approved the funding for it, then to take all the reclassifications all together to the county board in a November timeframe so that they're in place for,
There isn't a county board in November.
or I'm sorry, December. So that it's in place for January.
So can we put that on to the finance meeting that is next week without this body approving it?
Yep.
Okay, then I'm fine.
Okay. Otherwise, our next regular scheduled is what, October 13th at 4 p.m. meeting, so that's when we will reconvene. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Going to bed.